Today's episode is brought to you by AOS Kitchens, the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue podcast. Today we're speaking to Simon from The Grill Shack. I've been following his Instagram account for ages. I can't wait to speak to him about all the different cooks that he does. But without much further ado, here's Simon. Hello, Simon. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. For anyone who doesn't know who you are, please do introduce yourself.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. I am Simon, possibly better known to some people as The Grill Shack on Instagram and all the other social stuff. Part-time barbecue fan, full-time dad, husband, business runner elsewhere, and boring stuff. But barbecue is what we like to do to relax and whatnot. So that's what I wanted to talk about.
For anyone who hasn't seen Simon's Instagram account, normally people wouldn't say this. Pause the podcast and have a look through, because that's how I suppose how many people probably found you and looking through, and the fact that you're cooking so many different things and you're bringing so much personality through as well. And I feel like there's no shit there. You're not fluffing anything up or anything. You're just saying it how it is and what's happening, right? Is that like a conscious decision?
That's just who I am. So I run a business, and I've very much always gone with I kind of say it as I see it type thing. And sometimes you rub people the wrong way, but I think my natural personality is just to have a good time and stuff. So because I enjoyed cooking anyway, and cooking was always like a means to an end. Obviously, you need to eat and stuff. It's only once I got into barbecue, I kind of thought I can be a bit more myself here, and I enjoy the social side of things. Anyway, the get-togethers and the meetups and the events and stuff. So just putting it on camera wasn't really an issue for me. And I've had a few bits where they're not fails as much, but like things haven't really gone to plan. I just kind of rolled it. So I'm kind of unedited. So there's some people's cup of tea, not others, but it is what it is.
It's important though, right? Because so many people look on Instagram, social media, Facebook, and be looking and trying to study and learn more about barbecue, and all they see is this fantastic content or people telling you how to do it better. But it's important to understand that we learn from making mistakes. It happens to everyone, and you get involved. I think it's much more refreshing, and you learn more from seeing that sort of thing in an account,
Yeah, I think so. I make more than enough mistakes. I make plenty that I get to share everybody, and plenty more that don't make it that far, because frankly, that the entire account will be full of making mistakes. The thing is, as far as I'm concerned, there's some people that I kind of look up to, some accounts that I follow perhaps more than others with regards to what they're making, but it's for inspiration as opposed to this is how you do it, because I kind of believe, everybody has their own style, everybody using a different device. Everybody prefers their ribs a certain way, and so on and so forth. So you can't really be wrong. Obviously, you can overcook things to the point where you don't like them, but some person likes it that way. There are some weirdos out there like well done steak. So, you just kind of see how it goes. And I think in the instances where I have made mistakes, I'm quite critical of myself. So if I make something and people come over and I don't feel it's my best, with no disrespect to the people who are coming over, they're like, "Oh, this is amazing." I'm like, "Well, it's because you don't eat barbecue food that regularly. And if you do, you had one of those kind of poor chain restaurants, and so this probably is quite good. It's just my standards are quite high, so I can kind of get away with it a little bit, maybe."
I had exactly that the weekend just gone. Actually, Simon, I'd cooked some brisket for some friends that we hadn't seen in a long time, and it'd been a little while since I've cooked a brisket as well. So I always go to my local butcher to get mine, and it's just a farm just up the road. But it's probably the leanest piece that I've had. Like, I didn't have to do any trimming because there was hardly any fat cap or anything. Yeah. And I just got on with it and smoked it. And it took about 11.5 hours to get to temperature. It stalled for quite a while, but because there was no fat, even though it was tender, it was a bit dry.
Yeah.
I was, again, had the same situation where people don't eat it that often. Oh my God, this is great. And I'm thinking, no, it's not.
That's not, I guess it's nice though, because I think if you're like, I don't like waste. One of the things I don't like to do, I don't like to waste food. I've got 2 small children, and I kind of instill into them, don't waste food. And so if I do overcook something, I'm the only person who's going to be suffering what I consider to be that failure. There's something else you can do with it. The classic, like, oh, we'll chop it up, put it in a chili and that sort of stuff. So it doesn't go to waste. But obviously you planned for this wonderful brisket and you had all these aspirations about how it was going to be like oozing with fat. And you were like, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to take the best photographs. And when you look at it, you're like, I could prop the door open with that. Yeah. But I guess propping the door open with it still wouldn't be a waste. It would just be an expensive doorstop. But,
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. Again, food waste is I think something I just can't get on board with at all. Like you will use every last bit of whatever you cook. And it's probably why I'm so fat, because I can't not leave things.
It does drive me mad, but I mean, everybody does it by accident, I guess. No one intentionally makes too much food. But over the last 12 months or so, I've kind of got a bit more into training. I've lost quite a bit of weight, and I've changed how I eat things just because of that training pattern, which means that I am eating more, I guess, to somewhat of a schedule now, which means food waste is even less because it's semi-prescribed what I'm having that evening with regards to the amount of protein I need and so on and so forth. Which I'm not really into the whole food prep thing of when people are training. I don't want it to be like, oh, here is all my meals for the next 16 years and stuff. And by the time you get to like week 38, you're like, oh my God, am I eating this again? So I've been training for about a year. I want to get fitter. I want to lose a lot of weight. I put weight on, ironically, probably a lot of it through barbecue. But holidays and some other stuff, and nature of my job takes me to places where networking takes place at like pubs and stuff. And I just got sloppy. And so I moved into a kind of phase of training with a particular trainer where they were looking at my diet, my exercise, my movement, and so on and so forth. But it had me control my calorie intake a lot more and a lot of food prep to kind of A, prevent wastage, but B, make sure that I was getting what I needed inside me as far as like the protein and whatever the case may be. But the byproduct of that meant that I was wasting even less because I wasn't even having to try to waste food now. I was like, I know what I'm having Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, Sunday, I usually ease off a little bit. Still got to barbecue because a lot of the food for training is protein based. So it's what you're putting it with and portion sizes and stuff. But wastage is just a thing that just drives you around the bend because, like, I don't really think there's an excuse for it. And I know there's like just a laziness of like, or complacency, I guess, of like, oh, people couldn't be bothered and didn't really think about it stuff. But even when you're doing things like a spaghetti bolognese, if it makes too much, just put it in the tub, put it in the fridge, freezer, or whatever, have it later. And obviously, the thing with barbecue is, I'm sure everybody's aware, is that more often than not, most of the cuts that we enjoy to cook feed far more people than there are in your house. And if you only wait until people came around, you'd never be doing any cooking. So I bought a back sealer, and it's perfect for things like that. You do a brisket, you end up with far too much. But I can't just only cook it when I've got 25 people coming around. So I put it, and I made some pastrami over Christmas, and that was good to just kind of pack up. And then when you fancy some lunch, sometimes you pull it out in the mornings, defrost it for lunchtime, that sort of thing. So it means you still get to eat the things that you want to eat, but it cuts down the wastage because it's just a real bugbear of mine.
I love leftovers. Barbecue is one of the best things for leftovers, I think. Yeah. And it can sit in the freezer for as long as you need it to. And there's lots of different techniques and ways to bring it back to life. Because I think a lot of people think that it might dry out or something if you freeze it. But if you've done a good, decent brisket and you freeze it, lots of different ways, it won't dry out at all. And not only that,
no.
the flavor intensifies as well. It's so much more smoky.
Yeah, it's a little bit like when you have that takeaway the next day, it seems to taste better.
Mm-hmm.
With things like brisket and stuff like that, when I vac seal it, I tend to like faux sous vide it when I bring it back. So it's still in the vac seal, and I pop it in a pan of hot water and bring it to temperature rather than like bugging it in an oven or a microwave where you don't have as much control over the temperature. It's not done particularly scientifically. I haven't got one of those wands and they're telling me it's at this temperature, but it's just enough that you can kind of feel that it's at a point where you haven't overcooked it. You've just basically warmed it, defrosted it. Yeah, I completely agree. Like you sometimes find that brisket that you thought looked great and tasted great at the time is even better second time around. And the second time around, all the guests aren't there to enjoy
it. Yeah. Actually, can we just interested to take it back to the training part, actually. Obviously, we talk a lot about kind of barbecue and, there's the old kind of joke, you should never, the pit masters get bigger as the more experience they get, more food they eat, blah, blah, blah. But just interested to know have you had to change the way you barbecue to fit in with your healthier lifestyle, the change of calorie, the deficit, etc., that you were just explaining, or do you still get to have the same? Because typically, right, there's lots of sugars, and if you do certain American style, there's lots of butter, and it's not the most healthiest way to do things.
No, I maybe tweaked it, but not massively. I think part of it is portion control, and portion control can be focused on the sides, for example, because if you're having a mac and cheese and it's got the pasta, it's got cheese, it's got full fat milk in, slightly smaller portion, maybe put semi-skimmed milk in and stuff like that. It's only like small changes, because I was really keen to, like, if I'm going to go commit to this, I need to be able to commit to it in a way that is sustainable and it'll stick. If you start kind of taking things out and switching things up and it starts to taste different, then you're not going to stick with it, because you're like, it's not worth it for the sake of however many calories it is. And the counting calories thing when you first start is pretty dull, because it's almost like being in some kind of food prison. They're like, oh, you can't have this now. And I got to the point where I worked backwards. What do I want for dinner? Okay, well then what can I have for the rest of the day now that I've considered what the calorie total is for dinner? Fortunately with barbecue, so much of it is protein based, and protein is like a core thing. But from a sauces perspective, I'd usually give myself a bit of a pass. So I'd only really count the core parts of the meal. I guess you have to ease up a little bit with things like butter and mayonnaise and stuff like that, because I love mayonnaise, but then when I realized how many calories in mayonnaise, I kind of cried a little bit, because it's just straight up fat. Like, you have a sandwich and you just put butter on, and then, like, I don't know, whatever, ham and eggs and cheese, and then some mayonnaise, and before you know it, you've got like a 650 calorie sandwich, and you're still hungry 10 minutes later. So it's just been a bit more considerate of things like that. More protein in the sandwich, maybe a little bit less mayo stuff. But I haven't made any dramatic changes. I honestly don't think I'd have stuck with it if I had. And I am at a point now where I'm maintaining my weight, because I lost just over 10 kilos, I think, in total. And there's going to be some fluctuations, because I've not long come back from holiday and I was all inclusive, and I wasn't like, oh, I better watch what I eat. I was like, I'll pay for this. Send it over. And then when I go to things like Sizzle Fest and whatever, things like beers that are just empty calories, you're obviously consuming calories, but then there's no nutritional value to them. But I'm not like, oh, I better not have any. I just try and make sure that I'm kind of smart on the days like today, for example. Like, I wasn't going there, wasn't doing anything. This weekend I've been away, had a few beers and stuff. So today I was pretty strict with what I ate all day, snacking, make sure I stuck to a calorie target. I'm not particularly hungry. Like, I've kind of got it under control now, but long story short, I'll let it slide on things like sauces and rubs and stuff, because in the grander scheme of things, the portion size that you're having out of the whole thing probably isn't making a huge amount of difference.
Yeah, fair enough. So, in terms of your kind of journey, then obviously you mentioned that you'd had an interest in cooking because you had to eat, but obviously barbecue really kind of took it to a real passion. Where was that turning point? Where was the turning point of, oh, I just need to cook something to eat, to where you are now, obviously sat with a number of barbecues, you're in shack, and we'll go into other bits and pieces, I'm sure, in a minute, but where was that turning point for you?
So from a barbecue perspective, I can tell you exactly when it was. It was probably the same for me as it was for millions of other people. It was COVID. You're stuck, you need something to do. And because I already had an interest in food, it was just taking it to a different level, trying to do something else. It was, we need to eat. Obviously, I've got to go out at some point. I'm only allowed to go out so long. What can I get? And then how can I experiment with it? I'm allowed in my garden, manipulating to a certain extent all the things that you're allowed to do to make it a bit more fun. From an actual food perspective, I left home at 17, and I, not to make it dramatic, had to fend for myself. And so I learned the basics when I was younger, and only thanks to my dad, but I had to learn how to cook a bit more anyway. And I didn't want to be that kid when I went to university. It was like, I'm just going to eat noodles and toast. So I ate pizza as well. But I just wanted to cook, like, because you'd get more food and it was fun. And then it was a good way to bring people together. And maybe like I'd cook something and then we'd all have some beers and then we'd go out or something like that. Then when I got back to Norfolk, after I met my now wife, she can't cook. I won't say anything more than that. can't cook, won't cook type thing. But it's fine. That's why we work, maybe, because I enjoy cooking. So one of us does cooking and one of us does something else. And yeah, just from there, like trying to find the middle ground as to things that we both like and stuff like that. The barbecue thing was just a bit of a bonus, I think, because it opened up a whole new world that I've had barbecue, and I wasn't naive to the it's burgers and it's sausages, because I go to America quite a lot for holidays and for work and stuff. So I was aware of the barbecue scene. I just never really had crossed my mind about how to make that happen in my house. And when I started, I was on a gas grill. Ooh. But I actually did quite well with a gas grill. So I felt by the time I moved into other areas, like, well, you can do it on a gas grill. I mean, fire management is a different thing, but once you can do it, like, if you can make it work on a gas grill, you can kind of make it work on the other grills. So much so that we went to Florida a couple of years back, or maybe last year, I can't quite remember. And obviously the meat out over there is insanely priced, and we won't get into why it's insanely priced, but it's cheap. And I found a picanha in one of the supermarkets, and it was massive, and it was about $12 or something. I'm like, rude not to take this home.
Yeah.
So I took it back to our Airbnb, and I reverse seared this picanha on a gas grill, where I just lit one end and put it up the other end, and then got it to, and I took my third pen obviously on holiday with me, obviously. Got it to the point where I felt it was about right, but I didn't quite trust to sear it over the raw gas flame. So I then sliced it up and did it like steaks. It's great. Like, I've never been snobby about gas grills and stuff. Ironically don't have one now, so I'm picking them up and whatever. I've got a charcoal over here, I've got the electric smoker behind me, I've got the wood /gas over this side. But yeah, as I got more into it, I followed the people that we've all heard of. I bought DJ Barbecue's book, I bought Marcus's book, I bought Genevieve's book. I was getting everybody's books I can get my hands on to just be like knowledge, because it was just something new. But after a while, it kind of became quite clear that I think these people are great at cooking, but they weren't telling you this is how you cook it. They're saying this is how we cook it. So I kind of got to the point of like, well, then I don't really need recipes now. I just need inspiration. Like, after a while, there's only so many different cuts of meat, and then you've got to do more things with those cuts of meat. So whether you get the whole massive cuts of beef and then you slice it yourself, because I do enjoy watching the kind of butchery videos. They kind of explain what they do and how they do it, and silly little things like, I'm not going to get on my soapbox, but tomahawk steaks.
Mm-hmm.
I can't quite get my head around them, other than they look nice and they're charging you for the fact that they look nice, because there's a whole lot of bone there that serves very little purpose.
Yeah,
in my opinion. And then obviously they've realized that people like me have started to say that. They're like, we've made a cowboy steak, and they've still left an inch of the bone. It's the same thing. And I'm like, okay. So then they cut that off, and then it's a ribeye on the bone or whatever. I'm like, can we just keep going? Let's get to the ribeye, because that's the bit everybody wants. You know, I know there's some people who fantasize about gnawing a bone in a restaurant or whatever, but for me, I'm just like, let's just try and keep it simple. Yeah, and I like to experiment with the cuts of meat and the recipes and stuff, and I have to feed a house still. So I've got small children and a wife, and they're all particularly fussy when it comes to food. So we need to try and find something everybody likes.
Do you obviously you mentioned a few different grills there that you've got. Do you gravitate towards one more so than the other, or are you quite fair in the usage?
Probably not fair, but not because of any kind of preferential bias. The Traeger was bought with the sole purpose of, it isn't convenient. It isn't convenient for everybody, but certainly not convenient for me, to be doing these long, slow, wonderful cooks on a Wednesday night when my daughter's just come home from school and she's got to go in the bath and blah, 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 blah. And you can just chuck something on there and the phone will tell you when it's done, and you hit keep warm. And it's a little bit lazy, but at the same time, it gives you the experience. It gives you most of what you would be wanting from another grill, just with a little bit less hands-on. So it does tend to do a lot of the work. If I've got the time, I would tend to use the Kamado. It's a bit more of experience, a bit more fun. And on occasions when I'm cooking loads of things, I just use them all at the same time. Like, so I can do a reverse sear where I do part of it on the Traeger and sear on the Kamado, or whatever the case may be, because I've got so many things that they don't all fit in the shack. So sometimes I end up to bring things out and put them back in the garage. Yeah, so I mean, I'd be lying if I said I had like a favourite, really, because if I started saying that, my wife would say, you don't need all the rest of them, if that's
the case. They're all my babies and I love them equally.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
So with that in mind, is there anything that you wish you had or you have your eyes on as kind of a next little purchase?
That is a tough one because I've recently just bought one. I'd had my eye for a while and I couldn't quite tell whether it was FOMO because everybody else had been talking about them, or whether I genuinely thought they had a need for one. But having a need for one's never really been high on the list of reasons to buy a grill. I bought a Blackstone. There was someone selling them reasonably heavily discounted, and I thought it's time, because I've been meaning to get one for things like searing on something. Because if you think about what I said just now, if you're smoking it on here and then searing it on the Kamado, it takes a while to fire the Kamado up. This is the ultimate laziness now, where I've gone to the point where I can literally just fire up the Blackstone, heat it up whilst that's finishing in the Traeger, and then bash, sear it off on the Blackstone. But I had a bit of fun with it, doing things like a full English breakfast and stuff like that, pancakes and stuff, like all the classics. So I haven't got as far yet as what else would I like, mainly because I daren't say that out loud, because my wife's pretty easygoing, but even she would be like, you've literally just bought one, like just now. Part of her, I'm sure, is already fearing the fact that I'm going to Sizzle Fest, because who knows, it's like anything goes. I've got a car, I'm coming back the next day, who knows what might be in the boot, I won't realise till the next morning. So
that's exactly what happened to Owen the first time we went. Few drinks down, I'm having my Traeger now.
There we go. So, we'll see. But at this moment in time, the wish list is lower than it has been for a little while.
I really want a fire pit that I can do like asado and stuff on.
Yeah.
I've wanted one for years, just firstly because fire pit's nice, right? But you can do so much with it, and it's just getting around to do it. I'm probably leaning more towards kind of Kadai, because you get the other bits easily with it that you can do so much more with,
Yeah.
And although I've got a Kamado at the moment, which is barbecue, and I love so much I can do with it, it doesn't feel like real live fire cooking in the same way that would,
Yeah, I went to Meatopia a couple of years ago, and so many people were doing them over these fire pits and like almost like historically traditional barbecues, because they were literally just cooking over wood and fire and coals and a bit of metal on the top. I would look at those things, but I'm probably gonna have to wait. I've got small children and a dog, so at the moment it's hard enough with this wooden structure trying to keep them away from hot things, never mind fire things. So maybe one for the future.
I don't have anything on a wish list at the minute.
10 grills is enough.
I was going to say, is that because someone listens to the podcast and you don't want to leak that information?
No, genuinely. I've just given, I think I mentioned in the last episode, a gas barbecue away, but there's nothing that I want at the minute. I'm still enjoying playing with the Della Vita that I got a couple of months ago.
Yes, I have one of those too. They're not in here. It's in the garage. I am quite fortunate that Della Vita contacted me to work with them as an ambassador. So I already have the Gosling. I have to rotate because I want to make sure that I use everything fairly. And they're nice. They're a good bit of kit. I've had some fun with it. I am quite fortunate, I think, that I'm no more important than anybody else on Instagram. In fact, I'm significantly less important than a lot of people on Instagram. But I had a little bit of airtime thanks to Jay at Alton's Barbecue World when I was on Restaurant Roulette.
Yeah.
And off the back of that, I've had so many people be nice to me, basically, and like go, hey, would you be interested in trying our stuff, a product, a brand, a grill, or do you want to come do some bits with us and stuff like that? And it's so nice. I actually had to this year start turning things down because I'm like, I'm a big football fan. I've got a season ticket. I'm a big NFL fan. So at this time of year, there's a lot going on. I have a family and I don't really have the time to be like doing all these things. And so I felt really bad. I'm like, I really appreciate you getting in touch, but I literally haven't got the time to do any of this. Got a nice problem to have, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, again, that like you said, it is a nice problem, but I suppose it's also a nice thing that you can pick and choose, right? So you you're working with the brands, the products, the equipment that you believe in?
Yeah. So I believe in honesty, in that there's no real. So I had a brand approach me recently. I won't say who they are, but they wanted me to see if I could do anything together. And I just kind of said, look, if we did, it would have to be X, Y, Z, because I really don't want to use one of your grills if it kind of does what I've already got. That wouldn't be fair on you, and I'd be doing it because you gave it to me. And then it's put in the way because I've already got these things. Like, if you've got a couple that do some cool extra things, and that would be interesting to explore maybe. And in the end, we kind of got to the point where I kind of said, I'm not sure this is right for both of us. I feel like we're forcing it a little bit. But I think part of that comes from my business attitude. Like, I run a business and I'm very conscious of like time management and not wasting people's time, people not wasting my time and stuff. So when I was kind of saying earlier about, some people kind of take me the wrong way, I'm very much of the I don't actually care. Like, I'm not here to make friends type thing in business. I'm here to make money. It's a bit different on social media because you are literally meant to be social.
It's annoying, isn't it? No.
I know, right? Yeah. It's nice. Yeah, it's nice. I've not really been in this situation before where people are like contacting me, asking me to do things with them. I had a bit of a period, and I was going to mention this anyway because I know you guys did a whole podcast on it. I had a bit of a period where I kind of got to a point where I just couldn't be asked with the filming and the videoing and the social side of things. I was still doing the cooking, but editing is time consuming. And
yes, it is, Owen.
It is time consuming. And I put a lot of time and pride into the videos that I make, and I try. My way of making videos is very like storytelling. So I'm trying to play a story. I'm trying to put music to it that complements the video and stuff. And I'm not saying that people don't, everybody has their own way of doing it, but I just got to the point where it's like, I can't be bothered. Like, I love watching other people's content, and I went for a good 3 or 4 months to the point where people contact me going, are you okay? Where have you gone? I went, I'm still on Instagram. I'm still posting crap on Instagram stories every day. It's me in the gym. It's me on holiday or whatever. I'm just not recording the content because I want to eat it and go watch TV. I did find a little bit of a lease of life again, and there was a few people that I follow on Instagram who I've seen had done similar, which kind of made me feel better. And then I listened to your podcast as well to say it's not just you type thing. And so I just banked on it coming back again at some point. Maybe I'll just kind of be ready to do it again. And I was, but even then, I've now kind of prioritized my time again, which is kind of what I was getting at just now. That I've had a school holidays to manage for the last 6 weeks with a 6-year-old off school, and we've been away on holiday and stuff. And I've kind of decided, all right, well, the 6 weeks holiday isn't really the time for it because I've got other things to do, priorities and stuff. I need to be using my time in different ways. And then, if nothing else, at the end of the day of looking after small children, you're tired. So I'm kind of hopeful that I'll kind of get that buzz back again into the autumn and stuff. And I have filmed a few bits, and I'm going away just under 3 weeks to America to eat and drink and stuff, but that provides content. And I always look at those sort of things as content opportunities. I will often film things. It's just whether I can be bothered to edit them or not is the matter. Maybe I should hire an editor, but it's a very editing's a very personal thing in my experience. Everybody does things in different way. I watch so many different channels on YouTube and Instagram, and I enjoy the storytelling aspect of it from a different voice of like, everybody does their own thing, and you can kind of almost tell with some people, oh, I know who that is, because there's some people who do it in a very like first person perspective, and you know who it is. And then some people do it with the voiceovers, and then there's people like Poppy at Norfolk Smoke Pit, who's not all that far from me. She's got her personality just screams out, and you find your place. And I think probably my biggest issue in the past, I was just trying to be liked by everybody. And I think one of the things with Instagram particularly is that they do tell you to try and find your niche and focus on your niche if you want to be successful. And that probably applies the same to the audience. Like, some people like me, some people don't. Make content for the people that like you and hope that other people will change your mind. Maybe, I don't know. But...
I still think, obviously, you're right. We did that episode and we had a number of people contact us. Obviously, you've just mentioned it there. It seems that everyone was kind of going through, or has been of late, doing that social, a bit of that social media fatigue. Weirdly enough, I still don't think we've got it back.
I agree.
If you look at our page, we're still not post. You know, the fact that we run a podcast, we should be doing a lot more social media than we are. And I'll put my hands up to that, and that's my domain. But it's just, yeah, I still don't know why. I'm actually not even. Again, still cooking quite a lot outside. I can't remember the last time I got my phone out.
It's hard work though, because I think I think people now make memes about the fact that, oh, I put 16 hours of time into filming this, and then I got 3 people watched it or liked it. And whether you want to admit it or not, we are all here to get people to like kiss our ass, and like you want people to like your videos and say nice things and stuff. And if you make all that effort, people don't. Everybody's like, oh yeah, but you made it, you must feel good about it. Well, dude, no one else likes it, so what's the fucking point?
No, that's true though.
Yeah, that's it.
It's true. I also think that life gets in the way. So I do a lot less content when we're recording the pod, and Owen and I do quite a lot of batch recording when we record pods. So we'll have 5-6 weeks where we'll record 2 episodes a week, plus that needs the editing time to get it done. Plus we need to look at when we're scheduling it, when that's the post going up and everything. And then on top of that, if you've got things like school holidays, if you've got things like any sort of DIY or anything that's on, if you've just got busy with work and you've had to travel around a lot, you'll still cook stuff. But I'm thinking I cannot be bothered to sit there and take photos before I eat it, to film it, and that takes away from the enjoyment. That, and on my own page, I started doing something slightly different because I had a few people asking me for tips on things. So I was like, okay, well, I'll do some recordings where I actually talk through how to do this, how to do that. And I enjoy doing those, and I got some quite good feedback on them. But I don't know if you feel this way. I feel like a dick sat in the corner of the house doing voiceover for like a video or reel. I feel almost embarrassed. I cringe on the inside when I'm talking through it.
I see a lot of people who because I can't tell whether it's the confidence thing or not giving a shit thing, because I think I can probably find myself comfortably in both those zones if you get the Venn diagram together. But people who like walk down the street filming themselves, like I'm happy to film in here. I built this shack to give me the opportunity to cook and to film and stuff. Don't know if I necessarily feel as confident like strolling around the street, like just talking into the camera, because you are conscious whether you're about people just going, "What's this dickhead do?" You know, so like, and the voiceovers are almost as bad because like you're literally just talking to yourself.
I don't even want my wife to hear me or what I'm doing. I just need to sort something out upstairs. I've got like headphones in next to the Next, you take the skin off and you score it.
Just like, you okay in there?
It's funny, I'll come out of the bathroom in a minute.
Yeah, oh god.
Don't come in.
It's funny you mentioned about from the filming perspective about like the having to take the pictures and stuff, because that's probably a bit of tipping point for me. That during restaurant roulette, I have to put so much effort into making these like unique cooks and stuff. But basically, I'm making dinner. But before I can serve dinner, I've got to make sure they get it all for Instagram. Because the whole point of it was to be like I was in some kind of like either a live vote or I've got to make a video for a vote. My wife's just getting this dinner that's cold. Like the night of the final, I'm stood in here and I did this massive barbecue spread, like the whole length of this counter that I'm sat at now. Probably one of the biggest barbecue cooks I've ever done. She stood like directly opposite me under an umbrella filming it all because it was live. By the time she got to eat it, most of it was cold. But I could see the look in her face like, this is going to be nice 20 minutes ago. And I'm like, yeah, and then I didn't win. So I'm like, well, yeah, here's your cold food for nothing. Enjoy. Yeah, I get it. I think everybody, listen, there are people out there now who make a living out of doing this sort of thing, whether it's barbecue or whatever. And I imagine even they get to the point where sometimes they're just like, what am I doing myself? You know, I need a few days off or whatever. But the ones who do it for a living are probably just paranoid because the Instagram algorithm is so erratic as it is. So if you just don't post anything for a week or 10 days because you fancy some time off, and Instagram's like, bye then. And you come back and you're like, where have all my followers gone? Where have my likes and whatever gone? They've just moved on. So.
And we found ourselves like stuff just drops off for no reason whatsoever. It feels like there's an update or an algorithm change, and you can, again, we don't do this for anything other than the enjoyment of what we do, right? So I care slightly less, possibly less slightly than Owen with kind of the hit ratio. But we went from 1 week posting something that got 16,000 hits in the space of a week to next week doing something was different, but the same sort of style that got like 125.
Yeah.
And you're like, there is no reason, obvious reason at all why that has happened in that way. And that can suck the life out of you as well if you focus too much on that, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then I guess the other bit that kind of bothers me a little bit is that my account is a barbecue account. Like, so it's the purpose of it is to log barbecue account. But sometimes I just don't want to talk about barbecue. And sometimes something funny happens, or sometimes I go on a holiday, I want to make a video or something else, and I'm paranoid about whether I put it on the grid or whatever, because people are like, I'm not here for that, mate. So I do less of the videos, but I kind of got to the point of like, again, I make it sound like I literally don't care about anything. That honestly is the case, but I got to the point where it was like, well, I'm just going to talk about whatever I want to talk about. Like, so I did talk a lot about my training during that phase, because there were people who were contacting me after I mentioned it a few times, going, who are you doing this? What are you doing? What are you finding? Stuff. And for that, trying to like blow my own horn, I did pretty well. Like the amount of weight that I shifted and kept off, the people then asked me about it, but I'm like, well, this isn't a weight loss account. So I'm happy to chat about it in my stories, but I'm not going to start posting videos because it's just not who I am. But then I think a few Christmases back, I made a video that I thought was funny, and I just posted it, and it did really, really well. And I got these random followers, but they came as soon as they left as soon as they came, because they were here to see funny videos. So I cut up the Christmas tree when we finished, and I lobbed it at the bin lid, and it went into the bin, and the bin closed. And I put like "Don't Dream It's Over" playing over the top of it, and I thought, I'm funny, me, like that. And but then I went back to posting barbecue again, and then all my followers. So, like, if you could have an account that just talked about anything, you'd be having fun. But all of the experts tell you have to focus on a niche. And I just kind of get to the point where I'm like, I'm doing this for fun. Like the videos and stuff should be a byproduct of me cooking and eating. Like,
so going back to the cooking, then, do you have a particular favorite? Obviously, we followed you for quite some time now, know how varied your account is in terms of cooks, but is there something that is a go-to for you, a staple?
I do like a good ribeye steak, because now I'm one of those knobheads who like, I'll go into a restaurant and I'm like, that's not how I wanted it, that's not what I asked for. And I'm like, I could have cooked this better at home. I'm thinking, this guy's a chef for a living, and I'm just some bozo like cooking it himself but I know how I'm cooking it, that I can cook it to my idea of perfection. I am quite partial to picanha. It's one of my favorite cuts. Obviously a bit more effort, but I don't mind putting the effort in. And then wings and stuff. Like, so I'm a big American football fan, and football season's about to start again, so it's a good excuse to just like bung a load of wings on or do some tailgate food and stuff like that. So I'm quite happy to do the longer cooks with the big win at the end, or just these like, I've got enough devices behind me to be able to do whatever. I'm quite partial to a pizza now as well. So.
If you've been looking or thinking about an outdoor kitchen, then look no further than AOS Outdoor Kitchens.
They are the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.
Their extensive showroom is based just outside Bournemouth on the Dorset-Hampshire border, and as well as numerous in-store displays, also features a live outdoor kitchen where they cook every week on Kamado grills, pizza ovens, and all filmed and shown on YouTube.
They offer a wealth of knowledge on how to transform your patio into the most incredible outdoor dining area, with styles and options to suit every budget, and you can guarantee they will be able to create something perfectly suited to you and your home.
They stock and supply everything that you're going to need for outdoor cooking, including barbecues, Kamado ovens, pizza ovens, outdoor fridges, and every accessory that you would need to become the ultimate outdoor chef.
So if you want to make yourself the envy of your friends and neighbours, get in touch with them today to arrange a consultation and take the first step in transforming your back garden into the most incredible entertainment space.
Visit aoskitchens.co.uk.
Like on the NFL side, my brain is wired to connect NFL with barbecue, because I've said before, particularly in like, my dad would do barbecues most weekends. But when I look back, and I've spoken to him about it recently, it was because he was a big NFL fan, as my mum was. And so every Sunday we'd have a barbecue, and they'd have that with the first game that was on.
Yeah.
So
I do that quite a lot, to be fair.
Yeah.
That's a good way. one of the things that we've actively chosen to do as a family, because we don't do it for the rest of the year, I guess, is to have a family dinner on Sundays when the NFL season's on. Because I can't really be, well, I can, I'm just not around to help in the evening because the football's on. But that gives me a good excuse to say, right, what do we want? I can cook something really nice. I can do this. I can do that. I can, do you want pork belly, or do you want steak, or do you want just a chicken but done on the smoker, or whatever the case may be. You're right. There is a direct correlation between the two. I've been to enough places now where, whether it be tailgating or just going to cities that are famous for barbecue, where people put it's the three things. It's the barbecue, the beer, and the football. So, I find that as a good way to kind of make sure that the family are happy as well when I'm clear enough to watch football for 7 hours straight on a Sunday night. So make sure their bellies are full first. But
I'm guilty of the fact that I don't do it as much as I should with American football. I'm an Eagles fan, and for whatever reason, when they eventually won that Super Bowl that they've been chasing for years and years and years and years, I now tend to only really watch the Super Bowl and maybe 1 or 2 playoff games if they excite me.
Right.
But it used to be every single Sunday I would cook something to sit down and watch for that reason. Do you think that's one of the things that got you into barbecue? That link?
I think it leveled up. So I started the kind of barbecuing and stuff properly in COVID, but I'd actually been following football for, what was that, 2020? So about 9 or 10 years prior. And I enjoyed the barbecue side of things, and I enjoyed going out and seeking the restaurants that were selling the food. When the games used to be at Wembley before they inconveniently put skyscrapers and stuff up, there were lots of pop-ups for like Hooters and whatever, and the stuff that you couldn't really get around. If I go to football in America, which I do reasonably regularly, it always comes with like, right, we need to go to get the food to then go to the football. It's just kind of a rite of passage. So I'm going to a game in 3 weeks, and I'm going to the tailgate beforehand, and it's barbecue food already. I already know it's barbecue food, so to save me a job having to find something somewhere else. Americans see it, it's just their thing. I mean, like, there are Americans who look at football like it's the most important thing on their week. And if they say they want the food and they want the football and stuff, that message kind of emanates out of America, and that's everybody sees it. So the tailgates is a classic example. I was fortunate to be taken to like a traditional tailgate once. Ironically, it was in Philadelphia. I was doing a trip at the East Coast with my wife, and a friend of mine, her parents were in town. They were Steelers fans, and the Steelers are playing at the Eagles. And they said, "We'll take you, but we'll take you and we'll do it properly. So we'll go in the parking lot, we'll proper tailgate, then we'll take you and watch the game." Pulled in the tailgate, opened the trunk and whatever, got the table out, got the grill out, got the cool box out. It was one of the best days of my life. I was absolutely steaming by the time I got indoors. I'd had so much to drink. I had all this food. It made no difference whatsoever. I can't remember what I ate, but I remember I ate a lot. But those things, I think they're quite impressionable moments. Like that's just how the Americans see it. And I don't think the British are like wannabe Americans, but like when it's their sport that we're embracing. So it comes with all the bells and whistles. It comes with the barbecue, and it comes with the razzmatazz and whatever else it is. And we, as a group, we go out to the host city of the Super Bowl every year, and we hang out and we just watch the game over there, because it's pretty depressing to watch over here at like 3 a.m.
That's my life. I'm so used to that. I think, well, don't get me wrong, I'd love to go over there and watch it in the city as it's happening, but that's one of my favorite days of the year.
Yeah,
is staying up until 4 or 5 in the morning watching it, cooking the whole time. Owen doesn't get it at all, and I've tried to get him to try it with me once, and he's just like, no, not at all.
Everything you've just said in the last 5 minutes has gone.
Well, I know a lot of people who are big into football who book the Monday off because they want to be able to do it full bore and basically go, right, we're gonna eat, we're gonna drink, we're gonna stay up till whatever o'clock. So out of the last, I think, 8 Super Bowls, I've been in America for 7 of them. And probably the thing that will haunt me till the rest of the time, the one that I wasn't in America for, thanks to COVID, was in Tampa. I'm a Bucks fan. And when Tampa won it in Tampa, which at the time had never been done by anybody. And I was sat in my lounge at 4 a.m. because I wasn't allowed to fly anywhere.
Was that Brady's first season? Was that Brady's first season there?
Yeah. So like that was painful, but we've moved on. I've been to see some really nice cities and stuff as a result. The food's a massive deal there too. So next year we're in New Orleans, which is one of the ones I've wanted to go to for ages. The food scene over there is huge. The kind of party scene with the way they do things like Mardi Gras and stuff is huge. It's a massive football city, even though as a Bucs fan, we don't like New Orleans Saints. But they won't be in the Super Bowl, so we don't have to worry about it. And that for me, that they do work very much hand in hand. Not necessarily always barbecue, because the food scene in New Orleans probably isn't barbecue heavy. Food is food. Like, send me to a nice country that make nice food, and I'm in. So
New Orleans, are you going to ask people for beads for Christmas to take over?
Yeah, exactly. I go over there like I'm a local. We've already started doing a little bit of research about places to go, because I knew the obvious ones like the French Quarter and stuff like that. But I want to go over there. I've got a friend who lives in Tampa and is a Bucs fan and goes over for the Saints game every year. And there's so many different types of cuisine in New Orleans because of all these different communities that have come together. It's really one of those melting pot type cities where you can go and get the seafood at one place and so elsewhere. And then there's the French bit, and they're famous for like coffees and donuts and so on and so forth. Whereas this year, by complete polar opposite, we was Vegas, which is like, I know, honestly, so I go to Vegas quite a lot for work. So I was a bit blasé to it all, but as far as Super Bowls go, it was pretty bland. Like, Vegas do big all the time, and they just happened to be hosting a Super Bowl, and we were there for 2 days after, and before we left they'd basically taken it all down as if it hadn't happened. There's not really a major Vegas food scene. They just have famous chefs making you pay lots of money on the strip for food you could have bought somewhere else for less. So it's not high on my list of favorite Super Bowls, but I'm very excited about New Orleans, and I've got a couple of other places I want to go to at some point in the future for food purposes.
So talking about, I'm going to move it on because I don't know what you're talking about. Let's do some barbecue fails.
Nice smooth transition there.
Yeah, so smooth, right? Let's talk about some barbecue fails, Simon. Tell us some of the things that haven't gone so well.
So I was thinking about this earlier, because I don't think I've had too many like catastrophes, but the ones that have happened have always kind of made me laugh, because I've kind of thought, yeah, I probably should have seen that coming. Like one that made, so the first time I've got the Kamado, and the first time I used the basket accessory, the rotisserie basket, I'd been wanting it for ages. I thought, oh, this is going to be brilliant. I had all the ideas about all the cool things you're going to do. It's going to make great videos. The food was going to be amazing. And the first thing that I decided to do was a spatchcock chicken in the top, and I was going to be all smug, and I was going to put the chips in the bottom, and I was like, these are the best damn chips you've ever seen, because the chicken's going to baste the chips. But I was like, I don't want chips that aren't cooked, so I parboiled them first, and I bunged them in the basket, and it was turning around. I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And I filmed a couple of little snips onto like stories and stuff, and I was like, you wait till this comes out, it's going to be the best chicken chips you've ever seen. And I came back about half an hour later, and practically all the chips had gone. And I'm like, what? I don't understand it. It was only then I kind of then realized, obviously I'd parboiled them. They were quite fragile at that point. The basket's rattling them around, and they were just disintegrating, disappearing out of the basket into the ashes, which basically left me with a chicken. So as far as like fails goes, I went from having chicken and chips for dinner to like literally just chicken. It was lovely chicken, but it wasn't really what I had in mind. And I think a few of the other ones I've done have been where they're honest mistakes. You get distracted or something like that. Because like if I'm doing a brisket, I will ensure there are no distractions. I'm like, listen, this requires my utmost attention. Go away. But I've had a couple of times where I've done things like tacos or something like that, where I've got like a nice braise on the go, and I've got a bit of shin in there or something like that, and it's been smoked, and I'm all like, yeah, that's great. I'll leave that. And then the grill like flares up or something. I come back a bit later, it's completely baked to the bottom of the pan, like to the point where I'm like, oh, I wonder if I just put a bit more juice in this thing. What it'll turn into is a nice burnt, juicy mess. They are the ones who literally you cannot serve food at that point. You're like, oh. And then you have to kind of like think on your feet, because you don't want to go indoors and go, that dinner that'll be good for like 8 hours. It's not there anymore. I mean, it is. And also the pan's probably ruined. I am quite fortunate, I think, because I haven't had anything where I would like. I haven't had like a catastrophic fail on a brisket or stuff, because I've obviously listened to plenty of podcasts before where people have like really had some like absolute clangers. I like to think that everybody makes mistakes to learn from those mistakes, and I'm quite fortunate. I think that my mistakes have been relatively minor, and they stuck, because I guess sometimes if you make a minor mistake, they're the ones that you don't remember. You need like a absolute howler to stick at the front of your mind. Needless to say, when I have attempted potatoes in there since then, they have been significantly larger and parboiled for much less time. Yeah, so note to everybody, don't try and be clever, because you're usually not as clever as you think you are.
You just reminded me, the first, so I've got a only fire rotisserie attachment for the Weber. And then I chose to buy their basket. There was nothing wrong with the cooking element. I cooked some wedges. I think I did wedges, and it was all right. It was actually the cleaning it. There was ever so slightly where the kind of mesh bit meets the solid metal at the edge. There was ever so slightly a tiny little bit of metal mesh that was sticking up. So as I've gone over and cleaned it, it's literally gone straight through and sliced my finger.
Oh, hello.
So that was a fail, but not a cooking fail, but using.
Well, if your finger's still
equipment.
attached to your hand, though, hopefully. So you're about to,
it wasn't like it wasn't like a hospital trip, but it was that's doing a bit of bleeding.
Yeah, well, on the other occasions where I have cut myself, I burned myself, they are generally because I'm not paying attention. So, and I keep those as they're meant to be like little battle scars, like barbecue battle scars. But I put on my Instagram stories last week when I got the Blackstone. I was seasoning the Blackstone, and I've seasoned a lot of metal over my times, and never really done a very good job. I can't really get my head around it. It's like it's never even. Like I'm trying my best with like a paper towel or a whatever to like make it even, and then it's a bit lumpy or whatever. I was like, no, come on, it's not a difficult thing to do. Like, let's get this right. And I had the burners up full whack, and I spent so much time leaning over with this spatula and a bit of kitchen paper. And then after about 10 minutes, I was like, "What's my arm hot?" And the entire whole side of my arm down there was like bright red, and all the hairs on that side of my arm are basically all singed off at the moment. They've all gone. And it was all like pink down there, like I'd been out in the sun and not put any suntan lotion on. And I put like a video on saying I've seasoned my Blackstone and also my arm. And it's probably the most liked story I think I've ever had. So I'm like, everybody's basically laughing at my pain.
I accidentally managed to give my just under 2-year-old a soot face mask the other day. I haven't told you about this, Owen, because I've been saving it. So out in the garden playing, and I'm sure everyone else is the same, but we're cooking the Kamado, right? You get a lot of like ash that falls into the bottom tray, and I just clear it out when I next do a cook, right? So the first thing I'll do is put the little tray in the very bottom bit, get that ash out of there, and then brush to get a second kind of thing through. Anyway, we were outside playing with his Thomas toys, and we were hiding them in different places, and he was finding it hilarious. I was like, watch this, come here. So took it over to like the monolith, opened up the bottom grill, put it in there, brought him over, and he was laughing, pulled it out, and I was like, oh, it's covered in dust. The second that I'd said out loud, he sneezed, and all this ash just flew over his face. I was like, Steph's not outside. Quickly, baby wipe this child down, Nothing happened. And the shock on his face was just covered in this stuff.
I have visions now of you like desperately trying to wipe it off his face, but he's still got like a ring around his face, like a mime artist at the end of a day's work. They're like, he's got indoors, and she's like, what's up with his face? And you're like, what do you mean, what's up with his face?
He always looks like that.
He's been here for 2 years, for Christ's sake.
Oh god, it's one of those things where it was funny after I made sure he wasn't A, blind, and B, he was cleaned up.
Not coughing his lungs up from all the dust he's inhaled.
Actually, it's the fact he went absolutely silent and his eyes opened in shock when all this stuff came out over him. I was like, come here, wipe you down.
Do you know what the worst thing is? The first thing I thought of when you said that, I would have whipped my phone out, taken a picture. Then I cleaned my kids up.
I wish I'd thought of that. My instant panic was, Steph's inside and she's in the kitchen. I know she's coming out in 2 seconds. Wipe the child down. Nothing happened with this child. He's absolutely fine toddling around.
Kids, though, they can't keep that thing to themselves. So you might think that it's not being told, but at some point that story's coming out.
Yeah.
I mean, she's going to hear it in a minute, so
like she listens to this. She hears enough of me day to day.
I mean, you were playing with Thomas the Tank Engine. I mean, part of working on a steam train, shoveling coal, you're going to get black and dirty. So
exactly,
that's what I'd have played. That's how I'd have played it.
Yeah, we'll make it real. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, real live action movies. Right. So, shall we do some barbecue bingo? Do you fancy cooking something from an ingredient that a previous guest has left?
Yes, and no.
I was going to say, I'm glad you didn't. If you'd have said no, full stop, that'd have been awkward, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I've listened to some of these in the past, and I've thought to myself, God, I wouldn't even know what to do with that. And then obviously I hear people like trying to work out whether they're going to be mean or kind in what they then add. So I still haven't entirely decided which side of that I'm on yet. But
you've got a few minutes. So
it's taken us 5 series now, Owen, to realise that we should probably read out the ingredients on there. Otherwise, people who aren't watching on YouTube won't know what's on this magical wheel of fortune that Owen's put together. Not copyrighted. Don't come at us. So some of the things on there, we've got paella, scallops, rabbit, padron peppers, frog legs, tripe, kangaroo, hop in that, vindaloo paste, octopus, white pudding, monkfish, chicken hearts, duck, Szechuan pepper, and then finally something that we call my signature dish. So as a listener, you'll know kind of the premise behind that, but what do you think your signature dish would be, Simon?
Well, it depends on who you ask, because my wife's quite partial to smash burgers. So if I had to knock up food pretty quickly, it'd be smash burgers. Because I tend to do them in like the Five Guys style. Again, no trademark, copyright, etc., where you like put them in the foil and stuff and make it like it looks like a proper little meal.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people when they come around do kind of ask for the burgers, so it's probably that. Although if you gave me a choice of what I was doing, it'd be some kind of ribeye steak.
Is there anything that you're terrified? Is there anything on there that you really don't want?
Not really. The only things that concern me is that my wife can't really eat spicy food. So if I get anything with spicy, I've got to eat the whole thing myself.
Vindaloo paste.
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's not going to bode well for her. And I saw tripe on there, and I imagine people see that and go, "Oh my God!" And I don't want to make people think like I'm some kind of weirdo, but that used to be something I used to eat quite regularly when I was a kid. I'm from Norfolk, so we'll just leave it as this. The chip shops on the market stuff in Yarmouth used to sell like chips and tripe. It was a thing. I was a kid. I didn't know any better. It tasted all right at the time, although it was drowned in salt and vinegar. So who knows what it actually tastes like otherwise? Because I know what it is now. So it probably puts people off when you know what it is. But
I still don't know if I've had it, or if I had, I've mentally blocked it.
It does. Well, things like, I'm not a massive fan of like black pudding. And I don't know how much of it is because I know what it is, as opposed to what it actually is. And then I feel like I'm behaving a bit like a kid. You know, turn and say I don't like it. And you go, have you tried it? And you go, no, I just don't like it.
Yeah. Right, let's give it a spin. See what comes out.
Also, I'm a little bit upset you don't like black pudding. Work on that.
Probably. That was nearly on Vindaloo paste.
Octopus.
Oh, that was close.
I can work with that. I think I actually tried octopus for the first time like 2 weeks ago.
Oh wow!
I was on holiday in Tunisia, and they had it in the all-inclusive. And I actually, for the first time, filmed some stuff they hadn't put out yet. But they had octopus ceviche, which I won't be attempting because I looked at it and thought, "What on earth is that?" I tried it; it was lovely. But I quite like squid. So I imagine that octopus isn't too dissimilar to squid as far as like cooking it and what you can do with it. If you overcook it, it tastes like a tire. So you should be careful.
Yeah. Okay, so have you decided whether you're going to be nice or are you going to put try and stitch someone up?
I guess that really depends on people's interpretation of what I'm going to do, I guess. It did help me a little bit because everything on there, as far as I could see, was really savoury. And so I was intending to put something quite sweet, like a bit weird and quite sweet. And I'm going to do that. My kids love chocolate spread. And I thought to myself, you can make something with chocolate spread. And I would love to see if people thought they could be clever and make a semi-savory dish with chocolate spread, because it's pretty easy to turn around and say, I'll make a pizza and I'll use the chocolate spread as the base or whatever. That's kind of cheating. So I'm not precious on which brand you use, but yeah, some kind of chocolate spread.
I'm just trying to think. Savory. I mean, I am very partial to dark chocolate in chili.
Mm-hmm.
So my brain would be like, okay, would you put it in chili? Would you put it in some sort of other ragu or stew type substance?
Because more often than not with chocolate spread, it's very sweet because it's like, so the one that my kids have is a Cadbury's. Again, flashing these brands over, but it's very tastes like Cadbury's chocolate, because I've tried the dark chocolate and chili thing and it adds like a depth of flavor, but I imagine if you put Cadbury's chocolate spread in there, it doesn't do that.
I wonder what would happen if you put a thin layer of chocolate spread on a thick cut steak and then sealed it because of the sugars, how that would kind of caramelize up.
It's funny you should say that, because it was a video that I saw similar to that made me think of it in the first place a few weeks back. Someone essentially like brined a steak in melted chocolate.
Was that Guga? Was that Guga Foods?
I think it might have been him. Yeah, I think it might have been him.
I think I've seen
and then scraped it all off. Actually, I think it was like a $300 Wagyu steak or something. At one point, I was like, "Are you insane?" Brined it all off and then seared it, because obviously it was Wagyu, so he didn't need to do much with it. But I don't actually remember what the outcome of that was. But
what about? I think something like a chicken breast, where it's not really heavy on flavour, almost doing like a chicken Kiev, but rather than the sauce inside the chicken is chocolate, and then the breadcrumbs you do with like a cinnamon. So you mix like breadcrumbs with
that'd
cinnamon.
Be sweet as hell.
And not tell anybody. So what they think they're about to eat is a garlic Kiev.
Yes.
And then they buy into it. They're like, "What the hell just happened?" Like one of those blind test things to get,
Yeah. Is Aldi better than Lidl? I don't know. Here you go.
Well, let's find out. Yeah. Oh, that's funky tasting. What have they been doing? So I tried. I've got some of my most viewed, like, commented videos, whatever, are sweet and savory combos. I did like a burger series where I made like burger with a glazed donut, burger with a waffle. I did like a Star Wars themed burger and stuff like that. And if you get the flavors right, the sweet and the savory thing actually worked really well, because it's a bit like when you have foods and you put the acidity in, it kind of cuts through fattiness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But if you are the sort of person, and it's not like I have this most refined palate, I should point out, I'm just a geezer who eats food. But if you are the sort of person your brain can process that, it tastes really nice. If you're not, then you're a person who's like, what the hell's happened in my mouth? And you just like spit it out like a 5-year-old. But yeah, I'm interested to see if anybody picks it up or what they think they could do.
Well, the other thing that I was thinking is, like, classically, chocolate and brioche is a great combo, right? So again, I don't think it'd be thick, but if you had a burger with brioche buns that you toasted off and then like a thin layer of chocolate spread, top and bottom, that I don't see that going wrong per se.
You know what the problem's going to be now? I've been tasked with making something with an octopus, and now I'm going to go off, make something with octopus, and try and then figure out what I can make with chocolate as well.
I'm interested. I'm definitely interested to think of chocolate.
I'm not about to go and put chocolate spread on octopus, I should point out, for anybody who thinks that might be where I'm going.
No, you can put octopus on chocolate
in the
spread.
tentacles.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not get silly.
So I forgot what I was going to say.
We're coming to the end of the episode, is what Owen was going to say. And we always like to say to guests that we covered a lot of topics, but it's now your turn to kind of pick out. Is there anything that you want to talk about that either we haven't mentioned or maybe isn't being discussed or should be discussed, or maybe some of the barbecue communities on social media, or anything you just want to natter about, really?
We'd be here all day if that was the case. Do you know what? So I thought about this, and it'd been on my mind a few times lately. And I know it's been referenced on here before, so I'm not going to dive into it in the most of the details, primarily because I'm not necessarily the best place to do it. But it crossed my mind the other day. Obviously, there's a lot more awareness now with regards to mental health issues, and it's been well documented, and you guys have covered it and stuff. And I am fortunate enough to not have knowingly had anything that would be considered to be mental health issues. But then when I got thinking about it, I did think that I think a significant reason as to why that is the case, because I have passion projects that I love, but they're very community based. So you can probably see where I'm going with this, because like I barbecue, and I'm in the WhatsApp groups, and I'm in the Twitter groups, and I'm on social media. I'm constantly sharing things with people to the point where I don't feel like I'm like alone or struggling. Football for my sins. You go to watch your football team, and even if they're not performing, you're amongst 25,000 other people. And it gives you the opportunity to talk and stuff. Things like with my gym stuff, when I started talking to other people about it. So I almost feel like unintentionally, the topics and the activities I've chosen, but notably barbecue, I feel like they're perhaps a significant reason as to why I haven't had the misfortune of struggling in those sort of areas. Because the one thing I've always very much of like, you don't know what you don't know. But I've got a friend who's had some struggles, and I've kind of said to him, listen, I don't really expect you to explain to me what these are, because that is kind of the point. Like, everybody tells you should share it, but the reason people don't share it is they don't really know what it is they're meant to be sharing, because people won't understand where they're coming from. And I do, again, I have a relatively simple life. Like, I don't try to overcomplicate things. I have a family, I have a business, I go on holiday, I do the things. But I have the same shit that everybody else deals with. You know, I've got small children. I've got the same problems everybody else has. Electricity bills are high, and so on and so forth. But without really thinking about it, I regularly chat with people on Instagram, in direct message and whatever, and on WhatsApp. I never even met these people. Like, I don't know these people other than what they're sending me and what I'm seeing, and I'm taking them as they are who they say they are, and I believe that they are. But that's something I hadn't really considered until recently, that, you know, maybe I'm fortunate that I've chosen this area, and it just so happens that these people are here and they're good people and everybody's prepared to share stuff, because I've got people that I would genuinely say that they are like relatively close friends of mine, and I've never met them. And then when it comes to like events, you're now trying to make sure that you're going to these events, the Sizzle Fests and the Meetopias and whatever they are, because you know that there's a chance that you might catch up with this guy that you've been chatting to for like 2 years. And so I'm going to give you a prime example. So there's a guy called Dale. He was Wooden Designs on Instagram. I barely know the guy, but he was handy with making things out of wood, and he decided to turn his hand to making chopping boards. And I was his first customer, and we did like a big custom design thing where he made this amazing board out of 3 different woods with my brand. It's in all of my videos. It's amazing. He struggled a little bit with the whole Instagram thing, as far as like he wasn't really necessarily getting the engagement that he wanted and stuff. And I think it started to get him down a bit. But he's going to Sizzle Fest, and I've never met the guy. But he's the guy I'm gunning for as soon as I get there to go and have a couple of pints with, to just turn around and say, you know, I've been waiting to do this for a while, man. Let's catch up. Let's have some beers. Let's get drunk. Let's talk some shit, you know. If I did that with everybody that I talked to, I probably wouldn't be sober very much, which would then be a completely different community I'd be moving to. Yeah, I didn't really want to like blabber on about it and stuff, because I don't like to preach about things, but I think it would be remiss to not kind of cover that sort of thing, because having heard you guys talk about it before, having spoke about people in this community, and having kind of really now, I guess, acknowledged that is what it is. Yeah, it's worth saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is such a good community. And again, we've covered it before, but you know, social media gets a bad rap because of generally the toxicity that's comes with it, and it is there, absolutely, but you just don't seem to get that in the barbecue community, and I think it's probably such a strong community for that very reason, because you just don't get people that are dickheads, basically.
Well, yeah. But maybe. But I just think the thing with social media in its very nature is obviously people kind of laying themselves bare for you to criticize if you wish. And it's a choice. It is a choice whether you choose to say nothing, say something positive, say something constructive, say something negative. And it's so easy, it would seem, to say something negative, as opposed to, because I've got a few years under the belt, and I was always taught that if you have nothing nice to say, say nothing at all. But social media seems to be saying, hey, you've got a platform here, say what the hell you want to whoever you want. And yeah, I just don't see that in the barbecue world, when it would be pretty easy to do it. You know, someone could turn around and go, what do you think of my cook? And people go, look, shit.
Yeah.
But they don't. They turn around and say, well, do you know what? Maybe I'd have done it this way. Maybe try this. Or what did you do? What was your thought process? There's like an education as opposed to just taking shots for no valid reason. Because I'll never really understand it, nor should we get into it now. But I don't see what people get as a general rule of just like belittling others, because it doesn't make you better. It makes you worse, and it doesn't make them better. So what have you achieved? So that was just kind of what I thought I'd mention.
Well, on that point, I think the only time that Owen and I have seen that in the barbecue community is when you've put a post out that not gone viral, because that's not the right word, but it's got traction, and then you get people who are not in the community commenting on it. And Owen and I look at it in two different ways. Because I'm a sarky bastard, what I want to do is kill them with kindness and be over the top sarcastic. So I did a steak video a while ago that did big on Instagram. It did okay on Facebook, but I started getting comments on Facebook. And one of them was like, it's red, it's raw. And I was like, oh, look at this. He said, don't engage with it. I was like, no, I will. I said, thank you so much for your comment. It's really good to see people's feedback. Could you give me a bit more information about why it's raw? Because as you can see from the video, it's, 48 degrees, seared, come up to 52.5, 53 degrees. In what way is that raw by definition? Because here's the definitions of them. I'd love to hear more.
Yeah.
Because like, it's red, it's raw. So thank you so much. And then other people started commenting like, oh, it's lovely to see you. Thank you so much. I just...
Do you know the thing is as well, I've heard this said before, that that because of the nature of how social media works, any form of interaction technically is good. Now, you don't want people taking shots, so you don't want people being mean to you and stuff. But as far as Instagram are concerned, someone commented on your post. So if you have the mindset to be able to do that, and I am the most sarcastic person I know. Like my wife's just like, and so we go to America quite a lot. America don't really do sarcasm as much, and I will very regularly get myself in a situation where I say something and the person just looking at me like, what? But you can be sarcastic online and it be misinterpreted. But the whole killing them with kindness thing is probably one of my favorite things, because you can't be misinterpreted. Like, you might not understand that I am being a bit of a dick, but as far as you're concerned, the literal translation of what I'm saying is basically saying, oh, thank you so much for your feedback. It is very much appreciated. So I appreciate you taking the valuable time out of your very busy day to give me this wonderful constructive criticism. You don't put that bad. But like I said, it's Instagram want that. It's like so I've used this analogy a lot for work, that news by definition is new. So people who keep posting the same stuff over and over again, Instagram don't want you to do that, because they're like, well, we've seen this. But what we haven't seen is Dave from wherever coming on taking shots at you for your undercooked steak when he's completely underqualified to do so. And then maybe at that point you're like, oh, I've got to start a new video series. It's me versus Dave. Here's all the ways he's wrong.
I actually think historically, Facebook has been worse for the negative comments more so than Instagram.
We found, yes, but I also think that's because we never touched Twitter or X, which to me seems to be the cesspool of society screaming at each other in a darkened void, trying to slowly bring down each other one by one. I hate it so much.
So I used to love Twitter when it was Twitter, because I could access a lot of things I needed, like sports news, and I had people that I knew. And then the minute that it changed to X, they've got different ambitions, shall we say now, as to what they want from the platform. And they've opened a lot of floodgates to people to be able to do what they want, say what they want. And it isn't really something that interests me anymore. And I have to admit as well, similarly with Facebook, I go to Facebook to find things. I don't really post many things. I don't really post a lot for the grill stuff. I don't post much for the sake of my friends and family either. I'm more of the opinion, because it is mainly friends and family on there. I'm like, well, chances are you've seen me, or I've told you this, or you've seen it. So there's no point in putting it on there. And then you're going into these groups, and then there is a lot of bitching and fighting and stuff in there. And I'm just like, I don't need this. Like, I make light of it, but the fact is, and I'm certainly not the only person in this situation, if you have small children, there is always something more important going on in your house that isn't even remotely important in the grander scheme of things, but it's always more important than whatever that drivel is on Facebook where someone's whining about whatever. I'm just like, oh, my kid's just done this, or they've just broken this, or knocked this over, or like my wife came home today with my two children. One of them basically ran into the other one, and now has got a bruise on her chin. But tomorrow I've got to take it to nursery, and I'll have to sign a form because I gave my child over with a bruise, and they don't want to assume responsibility for it. And I'm like, that's already on my mind now, and I don't have to do that till tomorrow. So these are the these are my struggles, not like Dave. I'm sorry to any Daves out there. It's the first name that came into my head. I'm not taking shots at Dave. But Dave and
Dave.
Friends, out there, just complaining for the sake of complaining because they have nothing better to do. So.
Yeah. Well said as well.
Sorry,
we'll do a little disclaimer for Dave at the end.
My uncle's going to hate this.
Any Dave that's been mentioned during this episode is not a likeness to actual real people, and it's all just not factual bollocks.
But if anyone wants to claim the title of Dickhead Dave, please do message us, and we'll start a series about you.
You're about to go viral when all the Daves are going to just like hate you as much as they can, and they'll be sending you. And this is when your killing mechanics is going to really come to the fore. Every Dave in like 120-mile radius is like, hey, what have you been talking about, mate?
Please send your comments to dickheaddave@live.co.uk.
Yeah, I feel like now, like I've got on a bit of time, and I was about to turn around then and say something else about this mystical man, Dave, and I just thought, there is a geezer out there called Dave. He's probably taking offence to this, so I better not. So sorry, Dave.
Right. Simon, it's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've listened for a long time. Obviously, I've seen you guys at Sizzle Fest and stuff. So it was an honour to be invited.
Yeah.
Are you there in a couple next weekend?
You're goddamn right.
We'll see you
I've had a relatively inactive social calendar for most of the year, but then it seems like September's gone nuts. So I've got the return of the NFL, then it's Sizzle Fest, then I'm in Tampa, then something else, and then I'll spend the rest of the winter in my garage watching American football, eating barbecue food.
Nice. Great stuff. Well, yeah, thanks very so much for coming on, and we'll see you in person in about 10 days' time.
Absolutely, can't wait.
See you again. Thanks so much, Simon. Cheers. Bye.
Bye. That's it for another episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue Podcast. Thanks so much to Simon, aka the Grill Shack, for coming on. It's great to speak to him and find out about his journey, all the brands that he's working with, and also what's coming up next. So, as ever, we want to hear from you. Please do get in touch. And until next time, keep on grilling.
Today's episode of the Meet and Greet Barbecue Podcast is brought to you by AOS Outdoor Kitchens. They are the South's leading outdoor kitchen design and installation specialists.